This is about a 10-minute clip of a early 50s car rally, but it's an economy car rally, not a speed rally or a time rally per se, though you did have a minimum speed, like they mentioned in the clip. Now, I edited this down a lot, so it's mainly early 50s cars and US 91, US 56 and 91 from Southern California somewhere to Las Vegas and back. I think it's interesting. You may think it's boring, but if you like old cars and you like old highways, and I know 2 or 3 of you do, this is worth your 10 minutes.
At 6 o'clock the next morning, there was a light mist. The first car was off on the run, and another car followed it every 2 minutes. By 6:30, the last car was away and the sun was still down. If there had been a question in anyone's mind as to how exciting this race was going to be, he'd have his answers soon. At Cajon Pass, the fog was socked in. Heavy fog and mountain driving, as tough a combination of gas-eating driving conditions as you can get. And the boys had to average a realistic 35 miles an hour for the course in order to come in on time. And they had to conform to all the traffic laws and regulations in the 2 states of California and Nevada, their counties and their towns. The number 1 car, the capital letter Wise Men from Whittier, lay for a long time behind a tanker before the road-wise, courteous truck driver signaled that there was a safe, clear road ahead. Though the weather broke on the Barstow side of the mountain pass, these boys hadn't been out there more than an hour when they all knew that a safety and economy run was a special kind of a race, a mighty tough kind at that. And if you had any doubt as to whether the boys would be getting a real kick out of the run, you could read your answer, as I did, traveling up and down the line of gaily colored cars in the faces of the drivers. Like Don Pratt of the Buccaneers, or his observer, Roland Ellis from the Falcons, riding beside him. All you had to do was look at the faces behind the wheels. Remember, this is not only a story about officer, boy, and automobile. It's also about the road. These teenage kids were watching it like hawks, doing a job of navigation just like the boy Mark Twain did on the Mississippi River. For the time being, the road was straight and clear. Maximum safety speed, 55 miles per hour. They were moving on to Barstow. The road, like the river, had its branches. They converged at Barstow, and so did the traffic. It thickened, and the cars crawled like flies on sticky paper. You couldn't even get into 3rd gear, and the gas was burning up fast. As we moved through Barstow Bridge, the loud tensions that had gathered in our nerves on the first lap kind of settled down now to a soft, steady hum. And the road, like the river, flowed through beautiful country. The officials whose job it was to patrol the roads, mark the turns, check on possible violations, were members of the Peace Officers Car Club. Their faces were smiling too, beginning to feel mighty proud of their first project. No trouble so far, not a single violation yet. And as the road cut through the broad plains, you felt the tremendous space all around you. The country rolling out to the horizon, and you rolling with it. It was beautiful, and you sort of sensed the real meaning behind the word freedom. The road, like river water, was running under you, and all the time you kept thinking, what a strange run this was, where speed was the temptress. You could see her in your mind's eye, a siren coaxing you to open the throttle, burn up the road. Actually, the landscape changes gradually, yet something new always seems to come upon you suddenly, like the stubborn, needle-pointed Joshua trees fighting the heat of the desert. All of a sudden, they were there. And they weren't the only ones fighting the heat. The boys were too, and they fought it all the way into Vegas. No showman could have designed the approach to the dam any better for suspense. It was terrific. The tortuous road dropped down like a roller coaster. You came around a power line turn, and there it was, the huge concrete colossus. A wonderful tribute to the ingenuity, the cooperation, the bold, creative daring of man in his struggle to control the forces of nature. Up the boys on the youth run and showed them their town. A huge shadow stretched over the broad plain as we settled down to the long run. This time we were running all the way home with only a quick refueling at Barstow. As I checked the cars on the road, the excitement began to sneak up on me. I knew what it must be doing to the drivers in the run. The nerve tension was a graph. You could read its mounting intensity in the tight-drawn lines of the faces behind the wheels. In the face of Malalka moving through the Joshua trees. In the face of Danny Waskren rolling past the power lines. And in the face of the Prytons driver, Bob Lewis, running through the sagebrush. In the face of Phil Schiffenbacher, listening to the approaching train. In the face of the cutouts, Gary Simpson, heading for the Barstow Bridge. The Barstow refueling station was practically empty. This time there was no respite here. The boys were in and out again in a matter of minutes, off on the last leg of the two-day run. No rest at Barstow, and now we were running home. And the nerve tension graph that you could read on the faces behind the wheels was running too, and running high. The stress climbing in the face of the Domino's driver, Bill Meacham. In the Clockers driver, Jack Long. And in the face of the Wise Men's Frank Jimenez. There wouldn't be any decision as to the winner until the official tabulation sheets were in. And the winner would be announced at a special awards presentation meeting of the Peace Officers Car Club Association later. But the boys in the car clubs were all on hand to welcome home their buddies.
I want you to notice that on the footage of the dam, there were cars actually parked on the dam. And my first time at the dam was with my Hanai brother. It was late at night, and we parked right on the dam. And I've taken the dam tour with all three of my wives and my Hanai dad, and we started from a different place every time, and the tour has gotten progressively shorter. The first time that I went was with Marie, and the last time that I went was with the plaintiff, and it is substantially different. Anyway, I want you to notice the cars parked on the dam and no cars in the parking lot. Let me assure you that it's not like that anymore.